So the other thing that we can do is we can look at the plot in 3D. So this here is a new thing, and this gives you the warp scaler. So this thing basically raises up and down the z-axis. So once we you need to have a 2D plot open in order for the 3D plot to know where you actually want to plot. So it's going to take the whole spectrum there. And often with a lot of these functions, if they don't work initially, it's because there isn't a contour plot. So you have to do a 2D plot, and then it will be able to do an SVD on that plot, or a average slices on the plot. And so it's important that you do have open a 2D plot in order for those zoom ranges to be used. So it's currently interpolating the data onto a grid and then triangulating that onto, and there we go. There's the data in 3D, and once it's rendered, once it's gone through making the grid, it's fairly snappy, which is very nice. And the cool thing about this, I think, is that every data point is plotted, so you really have a really good understanding of all your noise. And the problem with a contour plot is that it does actually interpolate to some degree over these contours here, and that's okay, but it doesn't give you a really good description of the error and the noise that you're dealing with in your system. So you can get very close up and see you know, the wavelength patterns there, which is really something you can't do in a contour plot. It's also very good for seeing bleaches in data. So yeah, over on my Mac it's a little bit laggy. So there we go. So just a few tips for MyVI. If you click on this little button here, it will give you a little dialog box where you can vary a lot of things. The Z height is determined by what's called the warp scaler, and so you can actually change that yourself. Make sure it's negative because of the way MyVI plots the surf, and so we can change this. And you can see here that's where it was before. Once it has changed that, there's the new position. So I've just implemented that in this little slider here. So this will actually times 4 times 100. So you'll get, if you type in 5 here, you get negative 500 there. Other things which are quite interesting, you can change the axes, their size, their colour, whether they're visible or not. So in this case I don't want the z-axis to be visible, so I can change that. There we go. So there we go, we can remove that axis there, which is handy. And have a look at that data. Another thing which I've added is the 2D raw plot, and this basically gives you the raw data along the indices here. You can also do average slices of the plot, so that does depend on the zoom. On a contour plot, it takes the data from there initially. So if I want to do average slices on that contour which I just had up, it's going to go through, it's going to take 10 sections and it's going to do averages, and you can see nicely how that comes down. And in the next version I'm hoping to have a bit more control about how you take those slices and how they're viewed. The other thing you can do is, again, 2D plot. And let's do normalized slices, and this is helpful if you want to see spectral shifts, or if you want to see kinetics, especially short time components that possibly could be faster than the rest. So that's all of the new visualization. The log file is now up on a tab, and you can save it, and it will save it with this name, with log file at the end of it, I believe.